Fragments of Silicon, guaranteed to be online for more than 2 weeks.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me as always are Petty and Golix. Let us get to what we dub as the news. Oh, Petty, why don't you start us off this week?
Where to even begin? We are in
Common
the
refrain.
we are in the what I like to call the Missouri summer, where it is kind of hot during the day and then like 40s at night. So that's fun. It seems that there is some more crazy stuff going on at my dad's work because of his hand. Apparently, his hand surgeon was actually at his hospital today and was wondering why Dad was working, because apparently he should have been off for the past few days, but nobody relayed that information to HR. So this is fun. And the fun air quotes are about 3 miles tall here. I believe he sees the doctor next week. So no idea on, what's going on there. They're probably going to have him stay home at least next week, because he's probably going to need new stitches put in his wrist, because working sterile processing sucks after you just had carpal tunnel surgery. As far as like gaming goes, they've released where the next Digimon card game store regions are going to be. They don't have any like close to me. The closest they have is in Des Moines, Iowa, and that's about a 3-hour drive from me. So we will see what time that is. I might be able to do it since it's on a Saturday, but we really need to discuss that. I'd like to go because they have some very good promos for this time around, but... What, Adam?
I didn't say anything.
Looks like you tried to or something, I don't know. And then as far as like other gaming stuff goes, I've been kind of twiddling away at Dave the Diver, because I got it cheap. And it's actually a pretty decent game. And I think that's all I can think of right now, so next victim.
Okay. Well, Golix said be you.
Well, I had my car in for scheduled maintenance and getting inspected today, and turns out it can't pass inspection due to various things. And they're recommending...
Oh, go ahead.
They're recommending that it could be repaired, but some of them are known issues with the model, and it's a 2011, and it's old, so I'm probably looking at getting another car.
Ooh, that sucks.
So, having never actually bought one before, I have to learn how to do that quickly, so that's not going to be fun.
Yeah.
I know people who are experts at that.
Yeah.
Well?
Though not, probably not for Maine.
I was going to say, and like I said, Maine has significant... We have a lot more concerns in terms of inspections than a lot of states, because we have the, actual bad road conditions.
Yeah, apparently
in
here in
winter.
Missouri they're discussing getting rid of car inspections, so that's fun.
A lot of places only have like emissions tests and stuff, and I'm
Yeah.
like, but yeah,
My, my
apparently
state is
yeah, huh?
my state is like inspections. What are these inspections you speak of?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
yeah,
granted,
apparently the model is known for burning some engine oil, and mine is having some buildup from that, including on an O2 sensor and some from like around the engine. So it would be very expensive to repair.
right.
Plus, there's some issues like the brakes are a little bit low, and I don't know. So yeah, that's not fun. I have this far in my life avoided being in any particular debt.
Right.
For long at least, and not looking forward to that.
Hmm.
Because even though I do have a decent amount of money saved up, it's not quite enough to buy a car that isn't a complete piece of shit.
Right.
Yeah, you'd probably it sounds like with the amount of money you have stashed away, you'd be looking at getting a car roughly on par with what you've got right now.
Yeah, they recommended looking for like after 2016 if I get another Subaru, because then they had fixed some of the problems
Hmm.
that, and there are some of those around, so I might just do that, but I do need to do a little bit of comparison shopping, so I don't know. It's frustrating,
I'm sure it
and
is.
that has taken up most of my mind. And I have to pretty much get that squared away this month, because technically my car was supposed to be inspected last month, so I'm already in like grace period for that. So, yay. Anyway, video game wise, I've been messing around with a few other things. I got Gundam Breaker 4 for the Switch. Of course, all my friends have it on the PC now, so I may or may not get it again. Though I haven't even actually played it yet because I've been busy with other stuff, because Splatoon 3 is in the like 2-3 week run up to the big new content finale. We have Big Run this weekend, I think.
Now, is it like the actual finale, or is it just for this wave?
A finale of new content as far as we know.
So the cycle
amiibos
they've been in for the last 6 months.
Yes, but this is like the Splatfest that's not this weekend, but the one after that is the Grand Fest, where even though the themes are past, present, and future, it's still like choose between which of the three idol groups you like the best. I ended up going present because, I mean, I couldn't choose between present and future. And present has by far the most people in it, but it's also the group I like the best. Because they didn't have really strong what we mean by this cases this time, because it was three different groups cutting into the broadcast. So, because like you could interpret it as the future is the present is important, so do what you want now, versus the future is important, so plan for the future. Or you could interpret it as the present is important because that's when you can do stuff to affect the future, and the future as in don't worry about it until we get there, you know? So, anyway. But between color choice and group choice, I went with the majority, and will be certainly having questionable matchups during the Splatfest because of it. But yeah, on the lead up to it, there's another big salmon run thing at the new locations, I guess, so that'll be neat. And I also picked up the Castlevania Dominus Collection. I think I might have mentioned this last week and have been
You did.
playing that too. Haven't made that much more progress because resisting the urge to grind forever and then not actually make it all the way through. Dawn of Sorrow is particularly obnoxious because you get most of the best weapons in the game by fusing souls into weapons. Souls are fairly rare drops. And two of the best ones require fusing in the soul of a late game and end game boss, of which you can only get one per version. So if you want to, do that, play through on New Game Plus, which is fair, I guess. On the DS version, you could trade souls with other people, I believe. And also, the first time I played through, it was actually on a ROM, on a flash card, I think. And I just did the cheat code for give me all of the souls at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's what I've been up to.
Right, so my go. I suppose, first of all, another programming notice. MSP's going to be Macless this week. I know he was optimistic about turning from San Diego, but he just could not physically make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of podcast host can't average over 100 or almost 100 miles an hour on a 3-hour trip? I mean, really?
One that stays out of jail.
I'm kidding.
Like,
Yeah, those are you spend the night in prison numbers. At least.
Yes. Like, anyway, so yeah, he'll be absent, and the guest, I don't know, fell through. Like I said, I don't know what's going on there, but like the YouTube channel's been dark for a few months.
Unfortunate.
Set up the interview around the time of the last video. So, anyway, in its place, I'm bringing a staple from this show to that show since Mac's not there. And, we have no other way to fill the time without his pontifications.
And there isn't enough, news to really fill the full time slot this week.
Yeah, so we'll be looking at a episode of the Computer Chronicle. This time with Kevin.
Oh, man.
I've selected the Windows 3.0 episode.
Oh, man.
Anyway, but that's the plan for MSP. In terms of personal news, speaking of the weather, we are in the apex of the rainy season because, dear God, has it been rainy all week? And of course, along with the rain comes the humidity. I guess that segues into my next point. That is, barring any last-minute delays, I'm seeing my general practitioner tomorrow. Regular checkup business. Did find it a bit odd that their office didn't call to confirm, although that could be because I just called them last week to reschedule things. Hopefully that's not a portent of things to come. Because I need some medication refills. Bit concerned about potential weight gain because it's been the fucking summer. It's been hot as, just all business outside. So, being able to do the walking I do in more temperate times has not been able to be done.
Right.
Not without experting a fountain's worth of sweat.
Right.
And just feeling disgusting because the Florida weather is just disgusting most of the time. And also hopefully my blood pressure's stable. Always concerned about that, especially given the stressful summer I've had and been around. You know, so we'll see what happens there. In terms of gaming news, still plugging away at Pillars of Eternity. Right now, I'm going through one of the storyline important quests. It's hard to measure how far you are in a game like this because it's so fucking big. Like, I'm 30 hours in and I'm barely out of the starting area. I mean, that is a CRPG for you.
Yep.
Like, anyway, yeah, that's my news. So, merrily, we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week are Lulupa and MHINBRON of Colorgrave Games.
Hello.
Howdy.
Yes. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Got a workout in. Got some work done today, and I've been looking forward to this interview.
Good. Right. So, how we like to get started here is we like to get to know the people behind the games, behind the studio, and all of that business. And we do this by asking this particular question first up. What got you both interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Well, for me, in terms of getting interested in video games, I just thought they were cool. I grew up playing Genesis games. I got a Game Boy Color when I was 6. Kind of went through a few different consoles up until adulthood, and in terms of professionally, I kind of just fell into this line of work after doing some of this stuff as a hobby.
I was just hard-headed enough to want to make my own stuff because I would constantly get annoyed at other games and things I didn't like. So, wanted to
Well,
figure out how
not.
to do it and tell stories because that was what was important to me.
I mean, the legendary story for how you got into this too is that there was somebody who basically told you that you couldn't do it, and you were like, I'll show them.
Yeah, it's kind of like my whole history is I do everything out of spite. So here I am committing to the bit, still doing this for some reason.
Well, I mean, spite is a very powerful emotion. Underrated in how powerful it can be.
I mean, it's really
Yes.
funny. I had a tweet a while back that kind of blew up, and people tried to cancel me for it. They're like, "Don't play games made from spite. Nothing good is ever made with spite." And it's like that's not true at all. But like in terms of history, in terms of games, in terms of art,
I'm like,
that's just like an empty, hollow notion, and just shows
this industry is
idiot.
built off of spite.
Yeah. There is an entire artistic movement based off of spite.
I'm like, without spite, we wouldn't have the PlayStation.
Literally,
Like, among
yes.
other things. Like, seriously, spite is a powerful emotion. It's often a negative emotion. I'll give it that, but it's powerful. It moves great things.
You just have to make sure you have an even amount of spite, because then it cancels each other out and becomes a positive. You know.
I suppose.
I went to math class. You know, I didn't skip that one.
Anyway, so at what point did you all get together and decide to make this Colorgrave Games venture happen?
Well, about 5 years ago is when I showed up into this. Min had already been doing it for a while before then, and it was kind of a revolving door of artists. And then I showed up, and I said, "Everything is terrible, and we need to redo it." And so we decided to make a different game. Uh, we decided to make a different game, start from scratch, and start making stuff together. And our goal has been to try and release a game about every year and a half on average. So far, we're doing okay on that.
We're gonna catch up on that next year, though.
Yeah.
we're gonna be what we will be at a game for less than that, more than that. At the very least, we'll have done a game per year.
I thought you said you went to math class.
Look, I was in elementary school. Okay, I started skipping class in high school. Can you lay down, dog?
It was basically I kind of fell into working with him. Somebody that he knew came along into a server that I was in and asked if anybody knew any pixel artists, and I raised my hand and kind of joined up with this. I
You
got laid
absolute
off.
Fool.
Well, I mean, yeah, really. But it was boy, my brain stopped there. It's been what we've been doing, and I don't really want to do anything else, so that's why we're still kicking along. This is kind of this is like a dream job, you know, despite all the hardships of it.
It's a story that's been passed to us quite a bit over the years. You do have to have a certain amount of passion to be in this profession.
You need a certain amount of mental illness.
I mean,
You either have to be a
Not-
complete idiot, or you have to be mentally ill. So,
that's a way of putting it.
well, because like think of it this way: if you're stupid, you're not smart enough to realize you're miserable. You're not smart enough to realize how much of an uphill battle it is. You're not smart enough to realize just how hopeless it all is, or to see the trends in the industry and how the economy's going. If you're stupid, you're on cloud nine. You're having a great time. That's an enviable position.
And then on the other hand, if you're mentally ill, then you just absorb the suffering.
And you enjoy it for some reason. You're like, yes, I love the pain. This is what I came for.
Oh, but I'm like, and I'm guessing you've been with Colorgrave since the beginning.
I founded the company. Technically, the company's existed since I was 18. I self-published 2 books and was doing a lot of story writing, and then I thought, okay, well, I'll try and do games, and a lot of hijinks later. Here I am. But at this point, so I started out with John. John's the guy who does our sound, and he's still with us. I knew him from summer camp growing up, and then we found Lou, and since then it's kind of been the 3 amigos sticking together, and we'll have people here and there come on and help us and fill gaps that we have. But for the most part, I think all of us perceive each other as being integral pillars of what's going on here.
You do seem to be fairly tight knit.
They say keep your enemies close, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Let's keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer.
Well,
What's a friend?
yeah, I never heard of one of those before.
How does that work?
I'm not sure if it can be explained. Like, anyway,
There's a whole genre of cartoons that I think will do a pretty good job.
Dude, we should all go
Oh
watch
my-
Fairy Tale together and learn about the power of friendship.
that is a valid explanation there. Like, anyway, so yeah, I think you mentioned previously that you all strive to make a game about a year and a half apart, which, in terms of like indie production is very vigorous. Like considering
You remember what we were saying about mental illness?
just comparing
It all comes
again.
full circle. It's all connected.
Well, I mean, it's rather, usually the story is, 2 to 3 years on one game.
Nah, if you're making an indie game and you're spending 2 years or more, you're making a huge mistake, and someone needs to stop you.
I'm like I said, it's a thing that comes up regularly on this program. Like, but there are varying reasons to why that happened.
Well, a lot of the reason there's kind of two reasons for it as far as we're able to figure from our position.
We know a
It's-
lot of developers and watch a lot of rodeos.
Yeah, we've watched a lot of people start up and fall down, but the two reasons are usually time. So someone is working on a game that is larger, that requires a lot more time than they have, and so it gets stretched further and further out, even though they might have the skills and the resources to produce it otherwise. And then the other one is that they don't have the skills and resources to produce it, even though they have a lot of time. And so we try to be very realistic about our skills and our resources, which is what kind of makes us, we're very open to cutting things or changing things or doing whatever needs to be done to get things where they need to be in a workable state.
Oh yeah, we're willing to be vicious, and I think that's to our benefit. Like Lou and I will rip each other apart, and we'll make things better. But the best example is our first game, Prodigal. We were like 2 months out from release, and I said, "Hey, everybody, it's midnight. Let's have a quick meeting. By the way, the game sucks. I hate it, so I'm trashing all of it and remaking it. I know we only have 2 months, but I'll figure it out. It'll be fine." And it was fine. It turned out way better than it would have otherwise. But like, we had the willingness to make a aggressive, ridiculous decision, but also the self-control and discipline to follow through. I think a lot of people lack all of those factors for the most part. They lack the self-control, they lack the discipline, they lack the willingness to cut things and cull things as needed. One of the other downsides that Lou and I talk about a lot is by the time we finish a game, he and I are both looking at it like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I did it this way. I want to redo it so much better next time. Oh, I can't wait till we make another game like this in like a year so I can not make the same mistakes again. But if you're working on a game and you don't have a clear definitive deadline, you think, oh, well, I can make that better. And then suddenly you're redoing all the art. Suddenly you're redoing all the code. Oh, you're going to redo all the mechanics. And then by the time you redo all of that, oh, well, I can do this better now too. And you create this horrible cycle that ensures you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Scope creep is a hell of a drug.
Well, I mean, that's not even scope creep. That's just redoing things over and over again.
We have
It's
seen,
insane.
Yeah, we've seen that happen with some projects. Won't lie. Like, though in other cases it is a matter of time, not just like like part time. Like some people just do this as a side thing for one thing or another. So it takes like double the amount of time it would normally take.
But in those
But they're
cases,
still making the same mistakes.
and in those cases, you have to be realistic about what kinds of games you can make with the time that you have. You know, if I were to be working another job and making games on my own, I wouldn't be trying to make the next Final Fantasy. I'd make a small little, essentially a game jam game. And that might take me a whole year, but it would be within the realm of my capabilities in terms of time and like skill level.
Yeah, I think the idea that you can have an excuse of spending longer on a game because, oh well, I'm doing this part-time. Oh, well, I'm not taking it serious. That doesn't matter. Those aren't real excuses. You're not getting out on that one. You need to finish a game within a timeline, and you need to be strict with yourself on it. So if you cannot make the game that you want to make initially, fine. Learn. Make something smaller, educate yourself, and hone your skills, and then your big dream game will be even better.
'Cause you learn a lot from finishing a game.
You learn a lot from just launching a game, too.
Yeah.
Like getting through all of the different stages. The thing that sucks is there are so many projects that I've seen that are like solo dev projects or passion projects. It's my first game, and like there's so much potential there. You can see it, you can taste it, you can see all their passion. But because they're so insistent on like, well, I'm going to be a solo dev, and oh, this is going to be my first project, they're they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're taking out their own kneecaps before they have to go do a sprint. It's crazy.
Mm. Once again, it depends on the circumstances, but yeah, it's definitely something we've seen on this show and elsewhere. You know, I think the thing I'm finding most striking here is this perspective. It's not one we often hear on the program.
We've we came into making these games in a relatively optimistic mindset. There were other people making games. The indie community is very positive and all that kind of stuff. But
Right.
After 5 years, you kind of start seeing that there are people whose like lives are being ruined by this kind of stuff, and most people don't care about your game or the work that goes into it. And so you also have to work in a way that isn't going to cause you to sacrifice everything for the purpose of making this thing, whether it's a hobby or a job. Like, you've got to
Sacrificing your life and everything you have. And there's like this relentless sense of positivity and like, oh no, it's great. Oh no, it's fun. Oh, it's amazing. Look how great it is. And, Lou and I, we're willing to kind of be honest is how we perceive it of, look, this is going to make some people mad, and this is going to make some people not want to talk to us because, oh, they're just mean and angry all the time. It's like, no, we're just...
And we are. No, we are.
But if you ask us questions and you talk to us, we're going to tell you what we think. We're going to tell you our experience. And the thing that's crazy to me is like, Lou's done huge posts, I've done huge posts where we talk about data, we talk about the experience of being a dev for 5 years and all the things we've seen and experienced. Then some random nerd will come on to the post and be like, nuh-uh, Hollow Knight did well. And it's like, what? What is your perception of reality? It's crazy.
I mean, Hollow Knight is perhaps not the best example to use in terms of time management. I mean, we've spoken to Team Cherry about the original Hollow Knight, and that took a long time because everything is hand-drawn.
Yeah.
Silksong isn't even real.
Yeah, Silksong is 5 years out because everything is being done by hand.
And you just delayed it another year because you mentioned it on a live broadcast.
Yes.
Probably.
Add the years.
I mean, the thing that I'm going to be proud of is when Silksong releases, I'm going to be able to make a post of how many games I managed to release before Silksong came out. It's going to be incredible. Like, the entirety of our career, Silksong is supposed to have come out. And we're looking at probably 6 games by the end of next year. So
maybe, but Silksong hasn't been in development nearly as long as some other games I could mention that we featured on this program.
Well, sure, but Silksong has all the right resources they could possibly ever want, all the clout they could ever want. They have life on the golden platter. So I'm not going to shit on other indies that don't have any sort of massive funding or resources or connections because, you know, they have some internal problems they need to deal with. Like, we know devs that have been on the same game for like 6 to 8 years, and it's like, bro, you gotta cut. You
Yep.
gotta do something. Set yourself free. But like with Team Cherry, I don't know. What pity do they need? They're good. They're fine. They're figuring it out. They'll release the game they're happy with, and they'll be good.
True enough. Anyway, so I suppose setting, those design principles aside, we should get into the games themselves, because I'm not sure if it's a theme you got going on here or what, but at least two of your games are very Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm wondering if that stems from the childhood playing through the Game Boy Color games and all that, as so often is the case, we find.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We both grew up on Game Boy Color stuff, and so we took a lot of inspiration from that. But there's another reason for it, and that's that it's a much faster style to work in than maybe the standard kind of indie pixel art style. A lot of folks will try and go for something that's a little bit more high definition, and this helps us get through things faster while still kind of giving it a timeless look. And that's one of the big reasons why we stick with this style is time and timelessness.
I can see the argument there. I'm like, it's also, in my own opinion, not overused. Like, we've encountered people who not just make Game Boy Color-esque games; they make actual Game Boy Color games.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's its own kind of sub-development these days. But it pales in comparison to people who are making games in the style of like the Genesis, the Nintendo Entertainment System, even stuff like the Commodore 64.
Mm-hmm.
It's an avenue that's much less traveled, so I think it sticks out a bit more in that vein.
It's certainly one that's becoming a lot more popular. I have a feeling that once Mina the Hollower hits, especially, we're going to see a lot more of Game Boy Color styled games. But yeah, I mean it's a good look if you can swing it.
Yeah. And I suppose I should ask, are you working in actual Game Boy Color parameters, or are you just, like approximating the look and, not bothering with those archaic limitations?
When we started out, we did a lot more trying to adhere to the limitations. We're a lot looser with them as of Veritas. And
I was about to say,
going forward.
look at Veritas. Like, if you tried to put this on a Game Boy Color, it probably would have blown up.
Well, I mean, actually, a lot of the background tiles are still like totally fine and legal. A lot of them only use actually, I think almost all of them use just the 4 colors in the background tiles. It's really the character sprites that have a lot more cheating. And the stuff on the sides, we don't try and like make sure that all of everything lines up properly on the grid there. But there is some effort made to hold the look in a way.
Yeah, and if like a game, I know there are some Game Boy porting houses that are around there that be like, hey, we want to put this on the Game Boy. Be like, all right, cool, we license it, type deal,
That would take a lot of there would have to be a lot of concessions to the art, because even though there's the tiles may be legal, there are a lot of different tiles.
Yeah.
So, and especially like the animation, there are a lot of frames of animation that you would not be able to do in like a regular Game Boy.
Right.
So there's definitely a lot of stuff there that is not normal for that kind of style, but because we're not adhering to the style as a matter of dogma and just more as a preference for aesthetic and for practical reasons, we don't really have much problem with messing around with that stuff.
Right. I mean, I think that's actually valid. I know there are purists out there who will complain that a game isn't actually working in the actual specifications of a given system. Like I remember Shovel Knight encountering some commentary about that among other games. It's like, I don't know, most people won't care that much
No.
whether or not
Yeah.
your game will actually work on the system it's emulating.
It is funny that we've received people asking if we are going to have, or like if there is a ROM of the game. Especially for the first two games, we had people ask that, and that we thought that was funny. But nope, just regular old Unity project, and we're rocking and
Right.
rolling.
I mean, that's probably a compliment to the art skills on display here. That it approximates a Game Boy Color game that closely.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think it also goes a long way that Min's also able to put together the gameplay in such a way that you don't even
Yeah.
think twice about it. Things play pretty well.
Yeah, having played quite a bit of Veritas myself, it would be very much at home on a Game Boy Color. Not completely, because you've got 4 face buttons here instead of 2.
Mhm.
But otherwise, yeah, it's very comparable to a Game Boy Colors or Game Boy Zelda game. With its own quirks, certainly, but it didn't feel unfamiliar or anything like that.
Yeah, the next game we're just gonna take Link's sprite and just put it in there, and we'll see how that does.
Nintendo perks up. You do what? You want to run that by us again, homie?
That would be a bold move. Anyway, so I suppose we should get into your latest here, and that is Veritas. For the uninitiated, what is this project?
Veritas is a follow-up to our previous game, Prodigal. It's trying to take what Zelda started on the Game Boy through Oracle of Seasons, Link's Awakening, but making it a little more fun and less annoying. I loved those games growing up, but playing them now, I have little things that nag at my brain when I play them. And so I certainly am not a big fan of the new direction of Zelda, so I have a lot of fun making top-down adventure games, the way that I liked them when I was a kid, but not as bad.
I mean, there might be a grand irony in that statement, given where Zelda is about to go this month.
Well, let's be honest. The only reason they made that game is because they were able to harvest a ton of assets off of that previous Link's Awakening remake that they made.
Possibly. I mean, we all suspect
it's a great investment. Very smart.
We all suspect it's being done by Grezzo, but for whatever reason, Nintendo just doesn't announce the developer of a game until it gets released. Very weird. Possibly troubling.
Well, it's not that strange considering how many people react to hearing that one developer or another is on a project. It can cause them to judge it prematurely and not on the merits of the project itself.
You're not wrong. I've definitely seen that happen with, let's say, Donkey Kong Country Returns its HD remaster because of who's handling that one. But and putting all that aside, what sort of things in the Oracle's games, for example, nagged at you so much that you wanted to create your own response?
Inventory stuff, probably. I
Of
hated
course,
that. Like you'll if you play Prodigal, all of the upgrade, like all of the required tools and equipment for traversing the game, just get assigned to a button. You're set. You go. You never have to open a dang menu.
Yeah.
In Veritas, we made a concession of like the whole point of a huge thing with Veritas to us was experimenting and trying a bunch of new stuff because we were like, okay, this was supposed to be downloadable content, but we made it a little bigger. Let's figure out what things we can try and experiment with. So we experimented with the voice actors. We thought that was cool. We told John, all right, John, you're off the leash. Do whatever you want with music. And he did not do any chiptune. He went crazy. What else did we do? Luke
yeah,
tried a bunch of stuff. Luke got to do all these wacky cutscene things, which I'm never doing again. I did the same thing I always do and kept remaking the game over and over again, driving myself insane. Just the usual stuff.
I'm like, yeah, I noticed some of those quirks, like the soundtrack. I think in our review, I noted, the soundtrack is very unlike what you would expect from a game like this. You'd expect the chip tunes and the bleep loops, but it's very far and away from that. Not exactly sure what it is, but I know what it is.
We kind of like being in that. We like being in that space, though. We like people not knowing exactly what we are, but what we aren't.
I suppose it's not the worst place to be, like, and I think it worked out well enough. I will say I have yet to play Prodigal, but just playing Veritas here. Very solid game.
You should also play Curse Crackers. That's the best one. That's my favorite. I love that game. Oh my gosh.
That's the platformer, isn't it?
Yes.
It looked interesting. It's just it's one of those, finding the time to play a thing, especially when you do what we do and play a lot of games in and out in a given week.
Oh, I get that.
But anyway, another question I've been wondering since I've played this is, was there a particular inspiration behind the whole, what if we just took the dungeons of Zelda and made that a game?
I have a feeling there's alcohol involved with this.
No,
I may have unlocked something.
no, it was what was it, like 3 months away? When was it? It was pretty close. It was close enough that you got real mad.
Yeah, so I want to say 4 or 5 months out from release. we were we kept running into problems with the structure of the game because originally it was different. It was still kind of all dungeons, but it was laid out and approached in a different way. We were having trouble in terms of how to fit the story into that structure, how to make it so that structure made sense from a progression standpoint, and a whole host of other things. And
I messaged Lou and said, "It's bad. I'm changing. We're gonna redo it."
yeah, and I think I was mad more because we both kind of had been feeling that for a little while, but we hadn't talked about it, and so it was more frustrating that it was brought up later in development than
It's like
would have
the
been
original.
helpful.
I think the original idea we both thought was sick, right? We were taking inspiration from Castlevania. You have all the dungeons and all the zones interconnected and like this big, massive kind of section super dungeon, right?
Hmm.
It was really cool, but it didn't lend itself well to telling a coherent story the way that we needed to. And it also, in a lot of places, just kind of felt fillery. Like it felt a little padded.
Yeah.
So I think I jokingly said, "Let's just make Final Fantasy X," and Lou knew exactly what I meant, and so we just made it into Final Fantasy X with a straight through line, dungeon to dungeon, story to story.
Thought that was Final Fantasy 13.
They're structurally the same.
The only Final Fantasy
Fair.
I talked about is 10. I don't know. It's the only one I played. So, and I think I remember it very fondly. So whenever Lou and I are talking about RPGs, I just say, I want to make Final Fantasy X.
That's a game that's also near and dear to both of our hearts.
Like, don't really have anything to add to that.
Well, have you ever played Final Fantasy X?
A bit. Didn't
Yeah?
like it.
How come?
I mean, it's not the Final Fantasy game I hate the most, if that's any consolation. That's still 8.
I've heard that one's pretty contentious.
It had some lofty ideas, horrific execution. Like, I will die on that hill.
I aspire to one of our games being described in that way.
In the words of my mother that started me off on all of this, I'd like to see you do better.
I'm like,
She bought me Aragon, and I was 16 or 15, maybe younger. I don't remember when Aragon came out, but I read it and I said, it's kind of I didn't really like it. I thought it was rather bad because she had like talked it up, so I'd been excited about it. She got so mad at me. I'd like to see you do better.
I mean, the author who wrote Aragon was like 15 when he wrote it. So
yes.
it's not hard to do better than writing the inheritance cycle or whatever the fuck they call it these days. Like, look, I'm sure he's a very talented author, but, you know, a 15-year-old is still a 15-year-old.
I mean, I thought they were sick as a kid, so, you know, did a pretty good job. And he's written more books than I have, so what am I gonna...
There's a lot of people that like it, and that's great. I'm not sitting here saying that it's a bad book. I'm just saying I didn't like it, and
I'm just saying that you're going to get the experiences of a 15-year-old with Aragon, you know, which is a lot of references to Lord of the Rings and Star Wars.
Yeah.
Granted, you get that at other ages, especially these days.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Judging people just by their age seems kind of questionable, because you've had, like, going back through history, you had some incredible people that doing artistic accomplishments, military accomplishments, changing the face of the world, and they were under 15. So the notion that, like, oh, well, he's 15, you shouldn't have anticipated that he could write a good book is kind of a cop-out. Like, a 15-year-old can write a good book. He just didn't.
How do I put this? Those are the exceptions that prove the rule. You know, in fact, we have a name for such a person, a prodigy. You know, it's somebody who's very exceptional at a very young age.
Of course, having a family that works in the relevant industry also helps.
That's true.
That too. You know, what I'm saying is, yeah, you know, the child artiste that's actually really, really good is a lot more rare than the child that will give you the expected level of experience that a child would have.
Well, it depends on if you're talking strictly present context or historical context. Because historically speaking, people were maturing faster, having to learn more quickly, and they weren't wasting as much of their time.
I was gonna say presently, there's artists that are like in their mid to late teens on like Twitter and stuff that I'm like, these guys are better than me. What am I gonna do?
I don't agree. I don't agree with that.
It's a philosophical split at any rate. Getting back to the game itself. So, is there going to be a console version of Veritas?
No.
No, we tried a console version for Curse Crackers, and actually we've got a physical version of it going right now. I think you can pre-order them from Premium Edition Games, but that was a hassle to try and get working, and we were in the process of trying to do it with our other games, and it was just taking up way too much time.
I mean, it's a hassle. The Switch launch was a flop. Everything kind of flopped. It wasn't worth the time, the effort, the money. We're not at that stage. So we have one game on Switch. We're not willing to sacrifice more time, money, and energy into stroking our egos essentially.
Mm.
Fair enough.
You'll get a ton of people. They're like, "Oh, I want this to come out on Switch. I can't wait to buy it." And you put it out on Switch, and then they don't buy it, and you're like, "What is wrong with you? Are you good? You have a head injury? What's the deal?" So, the people. The thing that's so stupid to me is like we'll get people on Twitter that get mad at us for not putting our games on consoles. They're like, "Well, look at these comments. It's evidence. It shows that the market is there and they want the game." And it's like, well, yeah, you would think that. That's why we did Curse on Switch, but the market wasn't there, so no.
I mean, actual experience data is going to trump some anecdotal comments.
Yeah, but no one cares about the data, though, is the funny thing. Like, I've done posts specifically talking about data, and I'll get comments being like, "Nuh-uh."
Well,
what do you mean, nuh-uh? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I think the words "the market" is a stand-in for me personally. And as in that person and that person alone. They just want to have it on the Switch or whatever. It's an attitude I've seen in many corners.
Imagine.
I think they're all just bots, to be honest. I think Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox buys a bunch of Twitter bots, and they go around and post on every game like, "When is this coming to Switch?" They're not actually people. They're not real. They're just bots.
With social media the way it is these days, especially TwitX or whatever we're calling it this week, yeah, they could very well be non-existent people.
I'm always amused by the ones that ask for it to be on phone.
Oh god.
When can I have it on my Nokia?
There's one thing that's like a arcade cabinet system, and somebody asked if we were going to port it to that, and I was like, I've never heard of it, so no. What?
Oh god.
And it's obnoxious because I genuinely think that the perception is that all we have to do is push a button and then upload the files, and then we've ported the game to the console. It's just we're being lazy jerks because we aren't taking it to and doing that little minor work. No.
Right.
It's a lot more complicated than that, just like everything else.
Yeah, we're lazy jerks for other reasons.
Yeah, dude.
Right. So we're running low on time here. So I suppose I'll wrap up the conversation by asking, can you give us any information on your next project?
It's going to be great, and you should buy it at full price as soon as it comes out.
Buy it 3 times for everyone in your family.
That's right. Buy it for yourself and your 2 AI friends. We're gonna. it's going to be kind of an arcadey platformer game. We're actually working on. We've got a Twitch channel that's Colorgrave, and we work on the art for it over there every week, and we're also posting about it on Twitter and stuff. Right now, we've just got art mostly, but we've got some prototyping stuff done. We're working on implementing some multiplayer stuff, which is kind of cool. We've never done that before. We'll see how that goes and how that works and if that sticks around. But
Look,
I don't know. There's a lot of stuff we haven't done before in this one.
well, sounds like an adventure. Like,
Always.
all right. So yeah, I think I've run through my questions, time permitting. Petty, Galax, do you have anything further?
I think I'm good.
I think you've asked most of the things I thought of.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I want to thank both of you for coming out today and talking about your games, your company, and a whole variety of topics.
Yeah, anytime.
And as usual, if you all out there enjoyed today's broadcast, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and all that stuff to keep you informed when we go live next. Anyway, the game is Veritas. It's currently available now on Steam for $6.99. You can also get the soundtrack for the exact same price on Steam. So be sure to pick up both today. And Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. I will say the nice thing about being able to control all the levers for the week is I don't have to worry about time crunch. So we can do a topic of discussion instead of having to cut that for time.
Because we have something to discuss this week.
Yeah, like this,
Fresh off the presses.
Yeah, like I think it was yesterday this was announced.
Yeah.
Yeah, this came.
You've heard of Prime Minister outlived by head of lettuce. Now get ready for AAA massive game outlived by Prime Minister outlived by lettuce.
No shit.
I mean, I'm not sure if it was that fast.
It was. Liz Truss lasted like a month.
Oh, I'm thinking of lettuce. Like, I was about to say, like, lettuce doesn't last very long, especially when you don't have your icebox tuned correctly. Know that from experience. But regardless, yeah. So, in case you haven't heard the news, and there's a fair chance you haven't, because Concord just came and went. Not like a whirlwind or a maelstrom or anything powerful. More like a tumbleweed.
Soft autumn fart.
Yeah. I'm like,
there was no glory here.
No.
Admittedly, most of what I've heard of the results of this was from Arlo, who did a little bit of research on the numbers, and it's not good.
No. I've seen the numbers posted, or at least the estimations. Like,
let me put it this way: the cancellation of this game may disappoint tens of thousands of players.
Right, which under certain circumstances would be good.
Not when you spend 8 years and billions of dollars developing a game.
So, okay, first, I've done a bit of my own research. I hate having to use that phrase because it's been so tainted by internet chuds. But regardless, I did want to look beyond the headlines because, surprise, surprise, people are reacting to the headlines and little else. the whole 8 years thing is like the entire, isn't like they were working on what the game was as a present form the entire fucking time. That's factoring in founding the company, coming up with the game. It's
No,
also
but that stuff does get counted against the game's budget, is the main thing.
well, it's also here's the thing: they weren't always attached to Sony either. Like now, people are making another mistake in thinking that Sony has them in. Sony bought them like last year, but that's that's not necessarily when their financial investment in Concord began.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because typically for stuff like this, they will invest a little bit before the buyout just to kind of gauge progress.
And Sony also has done this kind of thing with other startups.
Mm-hmm. It's fun
other
that we have industry contacts so we can get it, not specifically in this, but like how this typically works. Information on. We haven't actually spoken to anyone from the Concord team.
No. Like
I'm just putting that out there for posterity reasons,
Yeah, it's like nor would I presume. Like I never pursued Firewalk games when they were an indie.
Right.
However, whatever definition of independent that you could ascertain before their Sony buyout.
Yeah. I'm just mentioning it. This is how we typically have heard this from other devs in a similar situation, not that we have this information directly from Firewalk.
Right. It's also worth noting that, this game just became a smoldering crater.
Yeah.
We're in the period where nobody really knows nothing about anything other than a few key facts. Mm-hmm. And that is, this game did not sell well, did not have a good player base, and was put into the ground.
Yeah.
And for the record, regarding the tens of thousands thing, this is the kind of game that they definitely wanted and expected to sell at least 1 million copies.
If this had like an indie budget, tens of thousands of players would be magical.
Yeah. It sold like a couple % of what they wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, keep in mind, it was backed, it had the full backing of Sony.
Yes.
Like,
this wasn't just something that like one of their off labels put out. They just put their Sony studio stamp on. This was Sony put money into this.
Yeah, this wasn't like the next Concrete Genie or Puppeteer or insert 1,000 little games that they released and sent to die over the fucking decades.
Mm-hmm.
There are way too many of those, and it saddens me. Like, no. This was their big. This was their big live service key.
Yeah.
Until
didn't this open the state of play?
Yes.
Yes, it did.
And it looked pretty neat until they revealed that it was, a hero shooter.
Yeah, until it was a watered-down version of Overwatch, which Overwatch 2 is already a watered-down version of Overwatch.
Yeah, remember, the trailer was framed as like a heist movie type deal. Mm-hmm. And while the characters were still pretty clearly like Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff type thing, or at least, if not ripoff, trying to capture that aesthetic, it seemed like an interesting thing. But then, no, that's just their explanation for the obligatory protect the objective mode.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, so that's the thing that has been feeding the negative feedback loop. Not just the in and of itself, this game took 8 years to develop. It's that it's a hero shooter. It's like it's because it's coming off trends that were antiquated quite a while ago.
Yeah. Overwatch
And,
dropped in what, 2016?
something like that.
Yeah, so we're
And
looking at nearly decade trends from a decade ago.
yeah, and how do I put this? I'm like, and this has been there. A lot of the conversation I've been hearing in the AAA space these days about just the sheer amount of time it takes to make a AAA game.
Mhm.
It's weird that we would have the time discussion in our interview segment and here as well. I'm like, and unlike what our guests might have said for the indie game scene, there's really not a way to reduce the level of investment that it takes to bring a live service game to the fore.
Yeah.
It's one of those. Once again, people don't know the scale it takes to bring a live service game to life unless your name is fucking Valve.
Mhm.
Like, and even then, Valve has some problems that other companies, let's say, don't.
Like they can't
you
count to
just,
3.
well, it's more just look at the state of Team Fortress 2.
Yeah.
Because they have so many other live service games that are taking the priority. Team Fortress 2 has been left to rot, basically.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, that apparently that's something that's starting to happen to Dota 2, in the wake of like Dreadlock. But once again, that's a specific thing to Valve, because they insist on saying a very small relative to what they do company.
Yeah.
Like, whereas, if you're putting out a full-on live service game, like, do you know how many fucking people work on Fortnite or Destiny? Like, even with the headcount reductions, there are literally hundreds of people who work on Destiny.
Mhm.
And those who aren't working on Destiny are working on another live service game, Marathon. The point is, unless you're like a specific team, like I'm sure the people who do Escape from Tarkov aren't all that numerous.
Mhm.
Like I think they're a Russian indie dev or something like that. But admittedly, I haven't looked into that direction too hard because, like, I have no interest in Tarkov.
Yeah.
But the point is, Firewalk Games, like, they're probably a very, very big team. That's probably going to get much smaller, if not extinguished
Yeah.
in the weeks ahead.
This is the kind of shit that a studio is no longer a studio after all is said and done.
Yeah, because
We've literally watched this happen many times.
and once again, this may be happening again. Um, and it's hard to articulate just how big of a failure this is.
Mhm. And like,
Because
there will be jobs lost, and it is unfortunate for the people this is happening, who at the same time, this is probably going to be studying game development courses.
possibly, like, I don't know how much we study, say, Crystal Dynamics' Marvel game,
Fair,
Avengers game.
but it will
But
probably at least be discussed.
certainly in the short term, it's gonna be discussed. But here's the other thing: the game's overall legacy isn't known yet.
Mhm.
Because like this could go quite a few ways, but the two most likely outcomes is either Concord becomes a footnote. It's like it's a game that existed for a very brief window of time, and then becomes the subject of what happened, death of the game at all,
Oh yeah,
or
I think they what's his name who does Death of a Game? Geek Slayer, as I believe he mentioned
yeah,
on Twitter, he's
Nerd
already
Slayer.
working on the Nerd Slayer. He's already working on a script for this because, duh.
Yeah, right. Or it becomes a symbol for the era.
Mm-hmm.
Like Concord will become a symbol of everything that is or was wrong with the industry, with gaming at
It's one
this
of those,
particular moment in
Concord
time.
might be remembered, but not the way Sony or Firewalk Games wants it to be remembered.
Yeah,
And
because I
then
think
again,
it's going
this
to
could be forgotten by the end of the year.
because I think it's going to be remembered more for that, the
Yeah.
failure of industry trends, than anything that Concord
Yeah.
brought to the table as a game. Because
Because,
here's the thing, like as a game, reading up on from what people played, the people who played it liked it.
mm-hmm.
Like, and apparently, if you looked beneath the surface, yada yada yada, it was actually doing a lot of stuff differently, uniquely. Drew in some people who didn't usually like this kind of game. Yada yada yada. I'm like, that's nice and all that, but from the, let's say, perspective of the majority, the perspective of the outsider, the perspective that's going to tell the tale, it's going to be remembered as a game of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That is unfortunate, but so much of the commentary I have been hearing around Concord is how generic it looks, how generic it plays, how it's another shooter in a sea of shooters, blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
all of that.
There's been a lot of, if this would have released 5 years ago, it probably would have done fairly well.
Yeah, and it's not even like just say chuds who are saying that because of diversity. Like they say that about everything
Yeah.
that fails.
Well,
Like
it's like if this was going up against like actual original Overwatch when it came out, and this in the state it's in, it might have done better than Overwatch. The problem is it's 5 years late to the party,
well, it's not
and
just the
we've
five
already
years
moved
late.
on.
It's not just 5 years late to the party, um, because and it's probably a good thing it didn't release in the wake of Overwatch either, because Battleborn did that, and where's that now?
I mean, also problem with Battleborn is it just plain sucked.
Fair. I'm like,
This one actually looks fairly competently done, and people actually enjoy playing it from the small player base it has.
yeah, but the thing that kept that I kept seeing on like social media is you made a hero shooter without the quirks. It's
Mm-hmm.
like
They didn't have
no,
Blizzard's animation storyboard team churning out animatics to endear us to these characters. You just
well,
kind of dropped them on us.
yeah, it's not just Overwatch that did this to
Yeah.
great success. To a lesser extent, I'm not sure about Fortnite because nobody talks about the characters of Fortnite ever. Like, there are actually characters in Fortnite, but
Yeah.
you'd be hard pressed to know that underneath all of the fucking collaborations that are announced in a given day.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I
like,
wish you were joking about that, but you're not.
no, I'm not. I'm like, no, another hero shooter that did this right was Apex Legends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like, yeah, if you're going to do a hero shooter, you kind of have to do a hero shooter. You kind of have to have the personality to carry the game.
Yeah. Make us want to
You
play as these heroes.
point on it, heroes.
Yes.
And this game, you brought us a bunch of John and Jane every people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, but not a customizable variant. Like what you get in, say, Counter-Strike. Or, once again, Team Fortress 2. Like the thing that used to be the trend.
Mm-hmm.
And might actually fill a gap in the industry. But, it's the opportunity costs.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were so locked in to making a hero shooter they must make.
Right.
To whatever result the market will foist upon it. Like, because once again, and it's also not a oversaturation of live service games. Or because I want to note one of the most successful live service games ever came out this year from Sony. Helldivers 2.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
The thing
Although
is,
that's a little bit different because it's generally
Yeah.
co-op.
well,
It's
let
still
me
live
finish.
service. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a live service. It's just not a hero shooter.
Right.
No, I'm not talking about a hero shooter. I'm talking about just the overall live service.
Yeah, no, my brain blinked. Sorry.
And one big reason why Helldivers 2 exploded like it did is it did new and different things.
And it also respected the player. I don't have to put a penny into Helldivers 2 if I don't want to.
Right.
There's no FOMO. There's none of that other horseshit live service stuff.
Oh, no. Like, that's the other. That's, like the 56th other thing that Concord did wrong. They offered this at premium price.
Mm-hmm.
When every other one has gone free to play practically.
Yeah. Even Helldivers 2 isn't all that expensive.
Let me look it up.
Yeah. I know it's not free.
Yeah, it is AA price, I believe.
Yeah, but it's
It
also
is
not
$40 right now.
Yeah, it's also not. That's not AAA pricing.
Yeah.
That's budget price in this day and age.
AA.
Yeah. It's like, Concord, I believe, was being offered at $60, $70, I want to say. I'm actually not too sure about the price.
It might have also been 40. I know I've seen some references to 40, but they may have dropped it to that. I don't know for sure.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. This was being offered at premium price when
But really, it's a game that I think most people wouldn't have played for free.
Yeah, when it's a hero shooter, and when was the last time a hero shooter, had a pricing scheme behind it?
Especially one with characters that are entirely new and do not have immediate grabby gimmicks aside from maybe the robot with the vacuum suck gun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so the price tag is $40. I get. Okay, it's just people did not find this game appealing at that price.
If it was free, more people might have downloaded it and tried it before deciding they didn't care about it.
Mm-hmm. Or they might have found it was great.
Yeah.
I haven't even actually heard anything about the play experience because I guess that would have required people to play it.
Yeah. So there is speculation. Yeah, there is speculation that Sony might bring this game back as free to play. I have no idea.
Yeah, especially with them. If they weren't already giving refunds, I'd be leaning more towards that, but they're actually refunding people for this.
Yeah, the indisputable fact that you cannot get around is this game failed fucking hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's the thing: games do not get unplugged a month in and free and fucking refunds offered to the player base. When you do even decent,
Yeah.
like this thing tunneled to the fucking center of the earth in terms of its metric.
Yeah, that's why this might be studied, because of just that crater. They pumped millions into marketing this just for it to crater like that.
Yeah. And
I'm not even sure you could say cratered, because craters leave a mark.
Valid.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that'll about do it for Concord, just in general.
Yeah. I believe the server shut down end of next week.
Something like that.
So if you still have the game and haven't refunded yet, enjoy your playtime.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Previously mentioned, we do have a new episode of MSP happening pretty much when we decide to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We know Mac isn't around, so, and like I said, the guests just, I don't know, fell off the face of the earth. Like,
And who knows? We may hear from them. We may not.
it's happened. Anyway, so no Friday show this week. It's another thing that had to be rescheduled. A lot of that this season. But regardless, coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be reviewing The Fall of the Lena Temple, Infection Maze, Arto, and Eric and the Ruined Kingdom. So until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.